So in the last couple of weeks, I did buy a brand new stock into the US portfolio. I've never talked about this company before on the YouTube channel, but I want to update you guys and give you a full video on this stock and the reasons why I bought it. I'll give you the positives, I'll give you the negatives, but as always, I'll be transparent because I always tell you what I'm buying, what I'm selling in the portfolio. I don't hide anything. I don't make a video only when they've gone up and go, hey, look, I made this stock that I've got a big winner in the stock market. If I'm making any moves in the portfolio, I'll tell you about it. And before we do the stocks I'm buying August edition video, I wanted to give you a full video on this stock. So hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. So in a second, I'll let you know what this stock is. I'll let you know some positives and also some things to just be careful with around this stock as well. But before we do, I just want to shout out that we are currently doing a Patreon summer sale. If you want to join the Patreon and get over 100 exclusive videos, support the YouTube channel, get to know what I'm buying and selling in real time, and a Discord with 500 members on to talk about stocks, including me, send me an email, jkrinvesting@gmail.com, and we'll get you on there. It's £45 a month. Normally it's £60. Well, to be fair, with Patreon fees on top, it's actually £72. So it is a very good discount, and I don't often do sales on the Patreon. And I was going to make it run out at midnight, but I am going to extend it to tomorrow just because there's a lot of you guys wanting to get on, and I've got quite a few emails to catch up on. So I'm going to give it another 24 hours, and then after that, it is gone. So if you do want to join, take advantage of it, send me an email. But let's get on to the reason why you guys clicked on this video, which is the new stock that I added in, which is Lululemon. I have added into Lululemon, or started a position in Lululemon. 29 billion market cap, currently trading at 18 times earnings. The stock has historically performed very well. If you look at where the stock has gone in the last few years, it's been a very good performer, up 1,585% in its all-time history. Even in the last 5 years, it's still up slightly without including the drop that it's been on. And if we really look since 2017, that's where the stock has really kicked on. And even with the drop it's currently on, it is still up 304%, which is still not too bad returns. However, the story in the last year is totally different. It's had an awful year, there's no way to put it. It is down 53% year to date, and particularly since it hit its all-time highs really in December 2023, even though the stock market has been pretty strong, it hasn't been for Lululemon. So with this stock being on the drop, I am looking at this stock and thinking, okay, this is a drop that it's had a bit of a correction. In fact, I think it's gone way too low now, where the stock has actually got undervalued. And I thought, you know what, on this drop, I'm going to start picking up some Lululemon shares. Now, I'll let you know, the plan is that I think the valuation is quite good at the moment. I think the risk to reward is there, but if the stock could go maybe even 10-20% lower, I'd really start adding into the position. So my plan is if it drops another 10%, I'll double up the position, and if it goes 20% lower, I'm actually going to double up again. After that, I can't, and you never say never in the stock market, but I can't see it going much lower than that, because already when you look at the share price, I mean, the share price is now lower than where it was before the whole CV situation. In fact, it's getting quite close to the bottom of the CV times, which shows you how low that share price has gone. So anyway, I'm going to start with the negatives. I know, I normally start with the positives, but we're going with the negatives today. Maybe I'm just in a negative mood today. I don't know what it is. So there's two negatives that I see with this stock. The first one is a recession. Obviously, especially after Friday. Obviously, the recession fears, would that lead to a slowdown in Lululemon's customer base? And the answer to that is yes, probably. If there was a recession, would we see slowdown of spending into the fashion area, and would Lululemon be affected? Yeah. I mean, you could argue the case that we've already seen that. When you look at some of the earnings in this space in the last 12 months, a lot of companies in this space, a lot of companies in the fashion space are already showing this kind of signs of a slowdown. But could that potentially get that image changing so fast, and then I'm gonna have to go off there. But yes, if there was a big recession, I could see Lululemon having their sales affected a little bit more than what they have done, and in the complete space. So that would be the big concern that I would have around Lululemon. Saying that though, probably nearly every single investment that I have and you have would probably see some slowdown if we were to have a recession. So just thought I'd mention it. The other thing is obviously fashion. It's a space that makes me a little bit nervous because loyalty to fashion brands does not really exist, and people can flip-flop between fashion brands pretty quick. Now, Lululemon to me seems like it's built up a good customer base at the moment, and they should be okay, but you never know in this sort of space, and that's the other thing to be careful of. Now, the thing with Lululemon is that I think the positives that are here and the valuation and the risk to reward now accounts for the risk of it being a fashion stock. So just thought I'd let you know about that. Let's go on to positives, because obviously I've gone with a really negative start, and you'll be like, well, why are you buying it then? Well, the positives for me outweigh the negatives. There's a lot of positives with this stock. So first of all is like I said, the risk to reward. You know, when you look at every investment, there's got to be a point where you go, there's a risk. There's a risk with every investment you ever make in the stock market, but would the reward outweigh the risk? And I think the upside potential now is worth me taking this investment into Lululemon, especially when you look at the valuation. You know, if you're going to take a risk, you want the valuation to be on your side. Right now, Lululemon is the valuation on your side. And the answer for that for me is yes. It's historic low valuation. You could have guessed that when you looked at the share price, but yeah, it's 18 times earnings. This is the lowest that Lululemon has ever been. It's same on a free cash flow point of view. It's the same on a price to sales ratio point of view. The valuation is the lowest that it has ever been on Lululemon. That's already assigned to me. That's quite attractive picking the stock up when it's at its lowest valuation ever. And that comes off a company that has actually been doing okay. The company has actually been doing okay, in my opinion. You know, the share price has been performing very poorly, but yeah, you look at the financials, and I look at the financials and go, but everything's moving up in the right direction. And that's where you have the disconnect for me, where it gets really attractive. You've got the historic low valuation, but yet all the metrics in the company are still moving up in the right direction. Not as good as what they have done previously. You know, there is a little bit of a slowdown there, and I could argue that the stock maybe should be a little bit lower, but not at historic lows. And that's what we're having with Lululemon. You know, you got 10% plus revenue growth year over year in this environment, which is, in my opinion, very good. And by the way, when these earnings last came out in June, the stock actually went up like 10% on the day, and then it went negative, which was absolutely crazy. Revenue of 10% growth. You got gross margin expansion, and the guidance as well was actually okay when you look at the guidance. And the more you look into the recent earnings, you know, net revenue up 10%. America is where it's a little bit weaker at the moment. But international, I mean, look at this, 35 or 40% on a constant dollar basis. This is very good international growth. US is kind of where it's weak at the moment. You know, you look at the US, that is where the weakness is at the moment. Canada is still pretty strong. China, that is where the growth is, 52% growth. Rest of the world, 30% growth. The international business is absolutely on fire here, and that's where the key growth driver is. And I'll also mention gross margin expansion up 57%, which is a lot higher than the likes of Nike and Adidas, which means that, hey, Lululemon is a premium brand. People are willing to pay up for this premium brand, and that's the benefit that Lululemon has compared to like the likes of an Under Armour, for example, which failed because it ended up discounting all its products. It expanded too quickly, it discounted all its products, and once you discount your products, you're not popular anymore. People want to pay your premium and go, hey, look, I've got Lululemon on, which is obviously what they're able to do. And the China growth is the big area for it. Sorry about the blurry picture here. I took this from a previous video that I did on the Patreon, but even Lululemon saying this is where our growth is for the business, is this international expansion. It currently makes up 21% of the revenue, and their aim is to get that up to 50% of the business as they continue to expand out of North America. And that's the target in the next 5 years, is to 2x the revenue they currently do. If they get anywhere close to 2xing their revenue from the expansion into China, if they get anywhere close to doing that, this company is going to do very well. So we'll see if that continues to happen. They also pointed out to the management always seem very aware in Lululemon. They see where they need to improve, and they called out, look, the US, where the US business was weak, wasn't because of competition. It was because we did not do enough good designs. We didn't get the right stock in. We didn't do the right designs. We're not seeing where the customer wants to have the designs with like wide leg leggings, for example, more colours. They said, we can sort this out, don't worry about that. It's not about competition, which is good to see. And all while that's happening, the profitability is still moving up in the right direction. I mean, look at the expansion in net income, look at the EPS and how much the EPS is going up at the moment. And with that profitability, they're able to buy back a lot of stock in the company. You can see here they added another 1 billion to the stock buyback, which puts the stock buyback now to 1.7 billion, which is also very impressive as a shareholder. And all this is going on when you're seeing a lot of other companies have weakness. You know, we said about everyone's worried about Lululemon that's growing 10% and going, oh, it's not good at the moment, it's only growing 10%, China's only growing 40%, but this is good growth, guys. Let's not get confused here. You know, you look at something like a Nike, for example. Nike wish they were growing 10%, and actually shows you during this time frame the sector weakness. You know, Nike is struggling in this time frame. You look at all the other companies in this kind of space, all this kind of premium kind of clothing brands, they're all struggling at the moment. You know, there's been so many companies that have brought out earnings and they've dropped absolutely huge in this space. The amount of brands that I could name off here that are struggling massively during this time, and yeah, Lululemon's having a slowdown, but it's nowhere near some of these other companies here. I remember a year ago Adidas had a big slowdown and now everyone's going, oh, they've come back again. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's coming back again, but it's 9% growth. This is apparently really strong earnings for Adidas, and because of this, the stock has been on a massive rally, as you can see here. Everyone's raving about Adidas and saying, oh, it's back again because it's growing 9% a year. But yet for Lululemon, everyone's talking about, oh, it's weak growth at only 10%. And for some reason, Adidas has now gone up to being able to trade at 64 forward times earnings. And I'm looking at thinking, well, how is this at 64 times earnings and everyone's raving around the growth? And Lululemon's currently at 16 times forward earnings for this growth. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just looking at the risk to reward and I'm looking at other companies in this space and I think, you know, this is looking very undervalued compared to other companies in this kind of space here. 16 times forward earnings for the numbers that Lululemon do and look very attractive to me. And like I said, if I get it 10% cheaper, I mean, we're going to be around, 15 times forward earnings, 14 times forward earnings. If we get it 20% cheaper, I'm going to be picking this company up at 13 times forward earnings. I'm sorry guys, but at 13 times forward earnings, if it gets there, for a company doing these numbers with a share buyback, in my opinion, I like that. I think, like I said, I'm not a big fan of investing into the fashion space, especially with likes of Boohoo, for example, but at that sort of valuation, sorry, the risk to reward really does scream at me, like, you know, go take advantage of it. And, you know, I look at the company overall, you know, apps, you know, the growth that they've had, and like I said, the company is trading at its historic lows and below the prices it were during the CV times, and yet you look at the company's performance. You know, the company went from 3.9 billion up to 9.8 billion. The profitability went from 645 million up to 1.5 billion. You look at the balance sheet, it's an absolute 10 out of 10 balance sheet. There's absolutely no debt on the balance sheet. They currently sit on 1.9 billion of cash, and obviously, you know, every year they're going to be making 1.7 billion of cash. That's going to give them major options just to keep adding into the share buyback, which will be obviously really good for shareholders. And insider-wise, I mean, there was a couple of sells, but the sells were at when the stock was $500, which I don't really blame them for doing. That's where if you gave me $500 tomorrow, I'd sell my shares at them sort of levels, 100%. But the roles were kind of, you know, minor roles inside the business. What is more important is that on the 27th of March, we actually had the chairman of the board came in and bought 1.4 million of the shares. So even the chairman's buying some shares at the moment, which is obviously, you know, really good to see. And, you know, you're picking up a company here that has clear popularity at the moment. You know, when you look at the top clothing brands for teens, it's the third brand at the moment, which is taking market share off Nike. You look at handbags, it's in the handbag. It's now expanding into the shoes. It's expanding into men's clothing. So it's still a very popular brand that's still growing market share at the moment. And for me, I'm looking at 16 times forward earnings for this business, and I'm just here thinking, you know what, 16 times forward earnings for a company that has this clear China growth plan and still very much expansion into the US as well and Europe. You know, for this valuation at 16 times earnings, for this level of growth and profitability, I think it's worth it, and that's why I pulled the trigger and bought a start position in Lululemon. Like I said, if you can give it to me 10%, 20% cheaper, which could easily happen, especially with the worries and the fear that's out there in the market at the moment, I'll keep adding into the position. But I did start a stake in Lululemon, which I think is worth doing at the moment at the current levels anyway. So yeah, new stock for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about Lululemon in the comment section, and have a good Sunday. See you in a bit.